On with Tamika Hamilton, who is running for California's 6th Congressional District in this year's midterm elections. How you doing today, Tamika?
Hey, Adrian, how are you? I'm doing really, really well. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. So we are about a month and a half away from this year's elections. What are things looking like for you in the campaign right now?
So, as you already know, I'm extremely busy. Right now, it's just like that crunch time. We have about 46 days left. Ballots drop October 10th. So, it is all about voter contact with Democrats and independents and making sure that Republicans get out to vote.
Nice, nice. So I guess what has surprised you about this year's campaign? I mean, you ran back in 2020. Has anything been different this cycle than last cycle?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of things that are different. So my district actually got smaller. I have one of the biggest districts, not only in California, but the nation. I had landmass size. So I was doing a lot of traveling to a lot of rural areas here in California. And now the district is kind of condensed to a more urban area to also include some parts of the district that I ran in last time. The energy is different. One of the biggest things that I've always talked about is how we do have a lot of Democrat support. And because I remain myself and remain consistent in my messaging, we're getting even more support now from Democrats and independents alike. And so, and my team, and this is something I always talk about, is like we have close to over 50 Republicans elected in this district, even with it being a purple district. And a lot of people don't know like how significant that is, especially when you're talking about running for Congress and having that Republican support and obviously showing that Democrats support Republicans in local government.
So yeah, because you're running up near Sacramento, up in Northern California, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Northern California is very much there's a lot of Republican support on both sides, and it just takes a special candidacy in order to capture the votes that are needed in order to win here in California, or in this district anyway.
It's definitely a good sign that you are able to pull over Democrats, you're able to pull over moderates and get them to come to your side of the aisle to support you. In your state, you live in an area where it's not deep red. It's more of a purple state, and you have people even within the Republican side of the aisle that aren't with the America First agenda. They're not huge Trump supporters, but they're still lifelong conservatives.
Mhm. Yeah, so just like the rest of the nation, the Republican Party has so many different, different kinds of Republicans. You have your Republicans that just want to, stay home and just vote and not be involved in anything political. You have your Republicans that are heavy Trump. You have a lot of, heavy Trump and MAGA for America First. Those are the kind of things that they talk about. And then you have your Republicans that just want to stick to the basics in terms of in terms of like how they speak on the issues that are most important to them. And so these are just like in the Democrat Party, you have your moderates, you have your progressives. There's all different kinds of people that make up a party. And so, just doing the best I can to navigate through that has been really interesting.
So again, we're just outside of a month away from the actual election. What is it that you and your campaign need most right now?
We always need money. Go to votetamika.org to support the campaign. Last time I ran in 2020 and I got 46% of the vote. My seat, was one of those unknown situations where people were just like, oh, like we didn't even know you were out there. Because I wasn't making like, even though I was on national news, it wasn't reported on like other seats were. And so it's always about money to reach voters. I as a one individual can only do but so much to get my name out there. So that's why we need money for ads and digital signs. And so that's what's most needed, especially in the last few weeks before ballots drop.
So the number one issue right now for most Americans is inflation and the economy. Let's say you win the election, you get to Congress. What are you going to do to improve numbers for regular Americans who just see their prices, prices skyrocketing? They're seeing their energy prices go through the roof. What steps are you going to take to try to address those issues? Let's just say because Republicans right now, sorry to give you a long-winded question here, but
It's okay.
Republicans by a wide margin are still projected to take the House. Senate's still a little bit of a toss-up depending on which poll you're looking at. So you're going to have most likely, if you win a majority in the House, Senate's a toss-up. So again, uh, just to frame it that way, what steps are you planning on taking to address that top concern that most Americans have right now?
Yeah, when it comes to a lot of the issues, especially here in California, there's so many environmental regulations that California has put on the average on business owners that stop them from producing, stop them from making money. Truckers, for example, there's so many regulations on them, and so we need to be advocates for truckers to be able to, especially right now when we're having still having supply chain issues, being an advocate for the truckers, easing regulations off of them, talking about the national debt and tackling that. I would love to work with Rand Paul on that because he's had some really great policies he's trying to put forth. Um, you know, the biggest issue when it comes to inflation is like printing money. We need to stop printing money. And again, making that awareness and getting that message out to voters is what's not only going to carry, it's I think a lot of the issues that we have, honestly, is because people aren't informed on from top down. And you and I talk about it all the time. It's like a lot of people just like see these narratives and are just thinking like, oh, it's just this and this, and we got to fight that. It's like there's so many things that have brought us to a situation where we have inflation. And so my biggest goal is to inform people, promote advocacy for small businesses to not be overregulated so they have more money in their pockets. This tax and spend stuff that the Democrats are pushing goes against small businesses. And so I want to use my platform to put that message out there so that people can vote the right way locally as well as on a federal level.
And I don't know what's happening up in your area with another top issue that people have, which is school choice. But
Yeah.
you personally, I don't say education more broadly, but you personally, where are you at with education and the option of school choice, vouchers, any way that you want to address that?
Yeah, so I am an advocate for school choice, charter schools, vouchers. You know that here in California, we are almost dead last when it comes to ratings across the nation for education, which is also which also brings me to the fact that we have a governor that's gone to DC just back in the summer for getting an award for education. So I always wonder, like, how is he getting an award for education when we're always dead last? Test scores across the board for all demographics are extremely low. For Black children and Latinos, it's down 6%, and obviously the pandemic contributed to that. But the more one of it's not this more concerning, but something really concerning is that over the past decade, the data has been compiled and shows that 75% of Black boys here in California cannot pass a standardized reading test. It's just a nice way to say that Black boys can't read, and so these are issues that need to be highlighted on a national level. We need to have congressional hearings from lawmakers here in California that continue to overlook this issue. And that's what I'm going to do when I get into Congress, because we cannot allow the next generation to go illiterate and then act like it's not a problem when you and I both know that if you can't read by fourth grade, it's a pipeline to prison.
And you made a good point just a moment ago as far as congressional investigations. We've had a lot of events over the last 2 years that have caused a lot of problems in this country, most significantly the response to the pandemic. There are people talking about having congressional investigations related to issues and laws that were passed surrounding what happened over the last 2 years. Is that something that's going to be a priority for you as well?
It just really depends on it just depends on the district. I don't think it's fair to say, that I'm going to have, do these narratives. Like, I'm going to do this in regards to the pandemic, because, I have to focus on what are the hot topics for my district and what's the pulse of the nation at the time. And if it's something that's important enough to bring the attention and have the congressional hearing, I will. But I will tell you that right now, education is on the top of my list. And if there's something that's connected to the pandemic that needs an investigation, then yes, I would so advocate for that. But my goal is to make sure that I'm talking to my district and I want to know what their concerns are first. And because I don't want to waste taxpayer time or dollars.
So, what would separate you from other candidates who are in Congress right now?
Oh my gosh, it's such a big question. because I don't like talking about myself. But, the biggest thing I would say is that, I can transcend party lines. And it just goes to what I've been talking about for the past 4 years. It's like I've been in the military 20 years. I've worked with so many different people, different backgrounds, cultures, whatever. And we've just always been about doing the people's business. And that's what I want to do in Congress. And I'm not saying that there are other people that don't want to do it. I'm just saying that, I'm proven here in California, and we all hear the jokes about California, how they just want to cut it off and like throw it in the ocean. Like, let's just let it cut it off and throw it in the ocean. But it's like, I'm showing that Republicans can win even in blue areas if they talk about and stay on message. That's all that matters. If you're talking about the people, that's all that matters. And so I think that's one of the things that sets me apart. I don't want to be famous. I just want to do my job and go home and take care of my babies. And this is a part of me taking care of my babies and setting them up to know how to fight when it's their time.
Now, you had a post on Instagram last week that was sort of geared toward wishing that people spent maybe a little bit less time online and more time being involved in the actual process as far as making calls, hanging up signs,
Yeah.
what have you. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about what you were thinking with that?
Yeah. So, again, the past 4 years, I've learned a lot. And, it takes me back to there. I'm not an activist. And when I started this, when I walked into my first Republican meeting, while, it's one thing to vote conservative, vote Republican, but it's another to actually be involved. And so that was a whole new world for me. And I always tell people that if you're not involved locally, if you're not talking about the issues on the ground, if you're not meeting people where they are, you're going to be so lost. And one of the biggest things that I always say is like Republicans, especially right now with social media, they just talk the talking points or they talk the things that cause the outrage or the clickbait, but they're not saying that if you just talk to people, then you would get so much further. And I've met Democrats that literally think total opposite of me, but are willing to give me a chance. And so then there's this other lie that says that, oh, they're all crazy, or both sides are saying that we're all crazy and they're all crazy. But that's honestly, a lot of those people are people that are not going to vote anyway. You don't get 46% of the vote in a 29% Republican district, not changing who I was or what I stood for, if you are making a connection. And it doesn't mean you have to agree or 100% of the time I have purity tests. So I just urge people to get involved so that they can know what they're truly up against, because it's not social media. Social media does not win races. It brings awareness and it can help fundraise, but it doesn't win the race. You have to connect, and people still care about that even in 2022.
Well, we have a pretty big meme culture on the right, but again, for people who don't necessarily work with campaigns and understand how things really work and what really gets people to the polls to support you on
Yeah.
election day, what are the things that actually matter as far as increasing turnout and getting those votes?
It's walking, phone banking, canvassing, and going to those meetings that are only once a month. It's literally once a month. And you could just Google it. I did that. Like, no one told me how to do this. Like, when I say, like, when I initially started, I literally just Googled, like, where are the Republican meetings? And, and I found it. It took a couple weeks to get through to them, like, in terms of like getting somebody to call me back, and because their website wasn't up to date at the time. Um, but it worked. I mean, like, I ended up going, and then I found out, like, okay, there's a lot of work to be done. And, people give boomers a lot of, they talk a lot of crap about boomers, but let me tell you something. You know who's at those meetings? Boomers. You know who keeps those parties alive? Boomers. And if you don't get involved, you're not going to see a difference, or you're not going to see a change. And not to say that, boomers are all wrong. I'm just saying that we need more of us there too. We need the
Which
younger
meetings?
generation.
Sorry to cut you off. Which
No,
meeting
no.
specifically, though? Like, if someone's going to go
Oh,
and look
yes,
up the
like the
monthly meetings, what needs to be
Republican
fixed
Central,
in their area?
yeah, so Republican Central Committees. Those are there should be one in your county. And I'll tell you firsthand, like, it's all volunteer, like, no one's getting paid. So if you don't have one, then that means that someone hasn't stepped up to do it. And so then maybe it's for you to step up and do it. So it's the Republican Central Committees.
So you're saying an easy step that people can take is just to become involved in their local central committee?
Definitely. Uh, I give you an example. For some people like that are on social media a lot, like waking up with Linda. Linda has been, doing the work on the ground and trying to get people involved. And in Miami, in Florida, she has helped people get activated, and they've won a lot of seats on school board in Miami, and across the state. And so again, showing that if you just do the work and you work the ground, then you can be successful, and it's not going to be overnight. That's why I always want to make sure people know it's not going to be overnight. You have to work. I've been working this for 4 years. I haven't had a real paying job in 4 years because my husband and I, we really believe that we can do this and show that people can come together.
All right, Tamika, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to let you have the final word. Why should people support your campaign?
I would like for people to know that it is all about you. And this is what I would not be doing this if I didn't think that I could help encourage people and give people hope, because literally we have such a strong ability to come together as a nation when we have hard times. And right now, America's in trouble. So you're not supporting Tamika Hamilton. You're actually looking out for the future and getting candidates like myself in office that really want to do the work to make a difference and do the people's business. And so a vote for me is a vote for the future. And I'll do my part in every way to work really hard for you. And go to votetamika.org.
All right, thanks for coming on.